For my final project, I chose to interview my father and share his story because I believe it is both inspirational and educational. His fight for survival and the choices which caused him and his family so much hardship are both compelling and extraordinary, but also significant lessons that we hope can spread awareness into the dangerous and horrific terror of the world of drugs and alcohol. My father's destructive dive into addiction and unlikely rise through recovery was an arduous journey and a heroic story, one of courage, perseverance, faith, and sheer belief in a power greater than oneself. From 2013 to 2019, Mr. Petrocelli was the instrumental music director at Stevenson's upper division, but in his own words, he was living a double two-faced life. On the outside, to everyone who knew him at work, he appeared normal and looked fine. He had a wife, beautiful children, and a full-time job where he was one of the top music educators in Monterey County. But behind closed doors and in his personal life, he was different. He was dishonest and lied to his wife about affairs, and was self-seeking in the extramarital affairs that he was engaged in. As the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous so eloquently and accurately states, drinking alcohol, using drugs, even gambling, addictive social media, video games, and all other obsessions like shopaholics and workaholics stem from 4 basic character traits that most people can identify with: selfishness, self-seeking, dishonesty, and fear. When asked what led to experimenting with addictive substances, my dad's answer might surprise you. His initial response is
selfishness and fear.
He went on to say,
I started using marijuana in high school because I didn't have the courage to tell my friends that I didn't want to try this drug when everyone else wanted to. In fact, marijuana is the #1 reason why I stopped playing high school baseball, for which I might have been a prime college prospect. Instead, I started hanging out with pot smokers who skateboarded. I then broke my arm and my shoulder and never played high school baseball again. I even got in trouble for stealing money from my dad to buy my druggy friends skateboards and other gear. When I got busted for it, my dad wanted me to recoup all the items, but I was too scared to tell my friends I got busted. That's a classic example of fear and more selfishness.
because my dad's world revolved around people who used drugs, it wasn't long before he was introduced to hard drugs. Hard drugs, which come in many forms such as pills, liquids, or white powders, can kill you immediately, or at the very least have severe repercussions on the body. Many times, people who use one drug seek other drugs and are sometimes being given harder drugs without their consent.
I continued to smoke marijuana every day and engaged in dangerous behaviors with meth from time to time. But in 2017, after my mother passed away, it triggered me to reignite my use of crystal meth. I began using meth every day and couldn't hold my life together. I could sense that I was going to lose my job, and the effect of the crystal meth was making me lose my mind. This is how the cycle began and grabbed me. Because I was using meth every day, my body became dependent upon needing more meth. Because I was using meth every day, I needed to supply my body with more meth or my body would break down. Because I needed more meth or would break down, my body was dependent on meth. Because I was dependent on meth, I lost the ability to choose whether or not I should use meth. Because I lost the ability to choose whether or not I needed meth, I was now in a vicious, addictive cycle of chemical dependency. Here are examples of how hard the meth was making my life difficult to live. I couldn't sleep while using meth, and I would stay up all night, then try to go to work in the morning, then fall asleep at random points during the day, usually while driving my car. This is how I crashed and totaled one of my cars. I was fortunate no one was hurt. Because I couldn't sleep, my mind didn't work properly, because the brain needs sleep. My memory didn't function. Could never find my keys, my wallet. I was always asking myself, where the heck did I put something? It was pure torture, because I lost the freedom to choose. I suffered not only from insomnia, but also dementia and meth-induced psychosis. I had to be hospitalized multiple times including being sent to a state mental hospital for several days. The mental torture I suffered from crystal meth induced so much pain that I committed several acts of self-harm. Eventually, I was jailed for 5.5 months for drug-related crimes.
The consequences of his drug use led to a systematic, destructive impact on every single aspect of his life until there was nothing left. He lost his job, then his wife and children moved out, his friends and family abandoned him, he stopped playing piano and golf, and he literally took his own life through several acts of self-harm. He was scared and alone, but according to my dad, his time in jail saved his life.
I needed a way to start over without meth or any drugs. Jail taught me I could live without drugs. In jail, I learned to survive without drugs or alcohol, and that saved my life. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, we believe that we were alcoholic and could not save our own lives, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, and that God could and would if he were sought.
When my dad was in jail, he had a lot of solitary time to think about what meant the most to him. There was a large cross beautifully drawn in pencil with Jesus spelled elegantly on the wall above his bed. He prayed on his knees to that gorgeous drawing many times and slept below that cross for 2 months before he was moved to a different part of the jail.
I prayed for forgiveness. I prayed for the courage to lead a healthier life, to be a father who leads by example, and to be rid of all the evil from my world and my children's lives. I always asked God to watch over me and my children.
For my dad, the road to recovery has been worth the effort. The odds of people who survive crystal meth addiction are very bleak, and those who do find their strength in a power greater than themselves. That is one of the primary principles of the Alcoholics Anonymous program. The first sentence in Chapter 5 of AA's Big Book says, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who thoroughly follows their path." After working the first 11 steps, the 12th step reads, "After having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs." The 12th step is to help others and practice the principles of the program in our daily lives. If we all can try to be a little less selfish, a little bit more giving, 100% honest all the time, and more fearless every day, then we are living a good life and creating a better world.
For me, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous make my life in recovery very enjoyable. I've developed a program and a daily regimen that is steeped in the 12-step principles. I pray, I meditate, and I help others. I make sure I am always honest and that I exhibit integrity. I do what I say. And I don't do anything to hurt someone else. The 10th step says that I promptly admit when I'm wrong, and that is very important to me as well. In AA, we are not perfect people, and we understand that recovery is not about perfection. It is always about progress. I secretary a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous on Zoom where people share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, and I sponsor other alcoholics and addicts who are suffering and are in need of guidance with working the steps.